All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. National Signing Day. Doesn't have the punch it once packed back in the day. This used to be Christmas morning as far as college football. It was one of the days early in the winter that gave you an opportunity to knock off of work, head downtown, start boozing before the sun came up, celebrating 17 and 18-year-olds signing and faxing in letters of intent from all over the country. Billy Embody covers that for On3 alongside of our friend Shay Dixon. They have a great podcast together. Shay will be in here Wednesday this morning for his weekly podcast over here at FM Digital Media, the Recruiting Hour with Shay Dixon. But Billy Embody is somebody who we go to as well. Bill, good morning. How are you? We're doing all right. We're getting the volume here figured out real quick. We're going to talk to Billy about Juwan Johnson. Billy, obviously the four-star athlete at a Lafayette Christian, decided on a top three and said that the decision is made. That'll be coming today. What are you expecting from the Southwest Louisiana native?
So I think he is going to announce on Saturday. There was a little mixed up with his graphic that went out. So I do think he's going to announce on Saturday, unless I missed something this morning.
You are
early
right.
on.
You are right. You are right.
Okay. All right. Cool. You had me worried there. But Florida, Colorado, and LSU made the finalists for Juwan Johnson, who's a quarterback at LCA. He's a terrific high school quarterback. But at the next level, he's probably going to play corner, probably a nickel. He's about 5'11" or so, 170 pounds. He really looked good at LSU elite camp for somebody who doesn't play corner regularly. Even for LCA, he doesn't play both ways. He plays quarterback. And so he's somebody that LSU was among the many schools to really get in on early on, offer. He blew up this summer and did so on the camp circuit and through some of the testing. You know, he isn't somebody that has elite top end speed from a verified perspective right now, but his change of direction is what really stands out, being that slot corner type for the next level. That's what people really like about him. And LSU's been recruiting him really, really hard. But over the last month, he's taken visits to Florida, Texas, and Colorado, and he hasn't been back to LSU. That said, LSU is still very high on his list. LSU's trying to get him on board, but he's fresh off that Colorado visit. And Deion Sanders has a little bit of recruiting momentum right now. Even though it's still 10 months away from the early signing period for the next class, I could see at this point it being Colorado, but there's still a few more days where LSU can burn up those phone lines, keep trying to, work him and let him know, hey, we really want you. We just haven't seen you on campus, so we were surprised by this. Let's reassess or, come back after the dead period and swing through, because he'd been a constant visitor in Baton Rouge. So for the staff that didn't necessarily feel like they were in a bad spot for Juwan Johnson, I think anyone would tell you that this decision is still somewhat surprising, despite him kind of wanting to do it relatively early. He never even swung through Baton Rouge for just a reconnection with the staff. So it was just a little odd, just the whole timing of it, which gives you the feeling that Colorado probably has some momentum behind him coming off of that visit. But again, LSU has kind of been a favorite in this one for a long time. So we'll see if he does end up picking LSU on Saturday. It would be because they really worked those phone lines and were able to, get him on board.
What sort of presence has Coach Prime been able to establish in Louisiana as Colorado's head coach? I know he's dipped in here and hired a couple of LSU former assistants. What's the impact been since he's been announced at Colorado?
Yeah, I think it's definitely early, and he's offered some players out of Louisiana and tried to get some of those recruiting relationships going. Corey Phillips is there, Pat Hill's there. Those are the two guys that he had hired away from LSU, and Corey got a promotion, and so did Pat Hill, so it made sense for them. But we'll see kind of how this all, goes over the course of a full cycle or two cycles, because it is hard to see sometimes Louisiana guys going off that far to Colorado. I think Tackett Curtis is going to USC. That's really the one that really stands out as far as guys that are going far, far away. Kyron Borda out of St. Aug is going to Arizona State. But, as far as recruiting someone really, really start to finish hard to kind of win out, it doesn't usually work out that Louisiana guys end up going off far, far away. They end up finding a spot regionally for whatever reason, at least, from how I've seen it. So, they have two guys that are pretty well respected there at Colorado in Corey Phillips and Pat Hill. And of course, Deion Sanders has a lot of momentum behind him since he's taken that job over and with what he did at Jackson State. But it's still hard to see him developing a massive presence in Louisiana and really being able to pull multiple players year in, year out.
Billy, anything in particular that you are watching today? I mean, this used to be a day that was so packed with news. It feels like it's lost so much steam and so much off of its fastball. Is there anything that you're watching today?
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. At this point, I'm kind of just being a recruiting fan and sitting back and watching the guys that'll announce. Nicholas Harbor, who I've tracked a good bit throughout this cycle, he doesn't have LSU in his finalists, but I'm interested to see where he goes, whether it's Oregon, whether it's South Carolina. But then on the LSU front, Jamel Howard is a big defensive tackle from Chicago that LSU's been recruiting. He's going to announce his decision this afternoon. It seems like, though, he's going to stay closer to home, and my pick is on Wisconsin at this point. So barring some late change there, I think he stays up north where he was once committed as well. So we're watching that one and his announcement. But at this point, it looks like we'll drop some superlatives. We'll drop some thoughts on the class on the board and celebrate what is a top 5 class for LSU. I mean, it's a very, very good 25 players that they've signed from the high school ranks and then, of course, the transfer class, which is one of the best in the country as well. So it is pretty quiet today on the National Signing Day front, but trust me, these 2024s are already having us working a little overtime despite a break coming for a couple of weeks from them.
This was a prospect that I was able to watch play in the Dome a couple of weeks back for Destrehan was Kalaj Cobbins, who came in a couple of weeks ago and made a campus visit to LSU. Where does LSU stand with him? And I got to imagine he's one of the top targets for the state going into next season.
You're absolutely right. And I think LSU sits at the top for him. Texas is a school that made some waves with him. He's also been to a couple other campuses, but he's one of those Louisiana guys that swung through that last weekend before the dead period. And I think that shows where he's at with his recruitment right now. And he could be someone that jumps on board early. I would feel like he probably takes some official visits, but he's been around LSU a ton. He's really been a priority for Jamar Cain and that whole staff from the get-go, and he's really productive. And I just think he fits in terms of what you want some of these Louisiana prospects that you're going to take to look like. And I'm higher on him than some of the industry recruiting services are right now, but he's got Texas, Michigan, Oregon, Colorado, LSU, and Ole Miss as his top 6 that he just whittled down. So for me, I think LSU sits at the top. Texas is a school that's trying to change that as well, but he's backed it up with his actions that LSU is one of his top schools, and I would feel like the Tigers win out in the end.
Billy, you were able to catch up with some other prospects of 2024, including JoJo Stone, who's a wide receiver here who's committed to LSU. What is this class looking and shaping up like now that we're, they seem to be next up?
Yeah, I got the chance to watch JoJo Stone and Zion Ferguson play for the Louisiana Bootleggers in Miami and talk to both of them. Both of them haven't shut down their recruitments completely. They've got a few visits they want to take. JoJo wants to get to Miami. He talks to Oklahoma. He talks to Georgia. And he's a really explosive player. I love him as a slot type guy for LSU. And in that sense, could probably find a way onto the field early on just with how fluid and how smooth he is. And then Zion Ferguson is a bigger corner. He's got some length. He's got some size out of another Georgia commit for LSU in that class. He visited Auburn this past weekend. A few other schools are in the mix with him as well. But those guys are two of the longer tenured LSU commitments, and they do seem solid in the sense right now. Obviously, a lot of time to go, and they are going to take some more visits, but both plan to be back in Baton Rouge in March and over the summer as well. When you look at the 2024 class overall, they've got 8 commitments. Maurice Williams is somebody I'm really high on. He's like a big safety, almost a linebacker at this point, who's out of Shadow Creek, which is a really good program in Texas. You've got Colin Hurley, the 4-star quarterback commit. I saw him throw at Battle Miami, and he's really smooth. He's got one of the best releases and arm talents in the class. He doesn't take much off of the football when he throws it. He's got a gun. But he's coming off of a season where his completion percentage was around 54%, I believe. So you want to see that tick up as he gets into his senior year. And then you've got Tavion Galloway, who's a really, really strong recruiter for this class. He was an early commitment over the summer for Mike Denbrock at the tight end position. And then you've got some guys from Louisiana. You've got Wallace Foster, kind of a nickel corner out of Warren Easton. You got Xavier Atkins, who just transferred to Summer Creek in Texas, but he's from Jonesboro and was at Jonesboro Hodge the last couple of years. And then Kayrie Lee from John Ehret is a big offensive lineman they've got committed. I think they're going to start getting on a roll here in March as some of these junior days that they're really prioritizing get going. LSU, the last 2 years now, have kind of been more casual about their 2 recruiting weekends in January. They've had some top targets. They've had some different guys come through, but the big weekends hit in March and hit during spring practice. So I'm excited to see who rolls through Baton Rouge. I know that first weekend in March is already shaping up to be a big one.
Billy, a story that dropped earlier this week, and I wonder the effect that it'll have on recruiting and what you may know about it. LSU announced Bayou Traditions, which is a Baton Rouge-based collective launched to empower name, image, and likeness opportunities for LSU student-athletes. That's been named the official collective of LSU athletics, and they're entering into a historic partnership with LSU Sports Properties. This will give the opportunity for NIL to be done in-house. What effect can this have on recruiting, if any?
Yeah, I think it just shows the commitment LSU has to NIL and supporting it and trying to be on that cutting edge of it in that sense. And sometimes the casual fan wants to give to NIL and say, how do I get involved? How do I get involved in recruiting? Well, this is a way you can do that. It's a program that's not only going to benefit football, but going to benefit all sports. And you can, share with the collective where you'd like your money to go. So if you want a beach volleyball player to get some NIL, you can do that. And I'm sure there will be people that do. So it gives you kind of a direct outlet to know where you can support LSU when it comes to not as much. I'm not too privy in terms of their inner workings, but just because of the company that runs it, I do know that it's a little bit more focused towards the athletes once they're on campus. Yeah. So that is important, though, for them to be able to flex that and say, hey, we have this money collection of money for you once you get here. Here's what that looks like. Here's what we can do with it. Those are kind of the things they can sell in recruiting as well via the Bayou Traditions Collective, which is now backed by LSU, so that they kind of have a two-way street on it now a little bit more in that sense. So it's a good partnership. I mean, there are different collectives all over the country that are popping up in different companies that kind of manage them. So for LSU to partner with one, this is really important next step in kind of their relationship with NIL and what that looks like. And I've heard rumblings that they're continuing to grow in the NIL space, and some people are certainly getting motivated on that front to get it going to an even higher level.
Billy, last one, I'll get you out of here. Tonight, Matt McMahon and the crew are in Missouri looking to get off the schneid. They're losers of 8 of the last games. Is there anything on the horizon in recruiting that gives any hope to LSU fans of something coming in? What is the outlook for the program?
Yeah, I think with this class, in terms of how they're going to finish it out, they have Corey Chess committed. They have Mike Williams committed. Those are their two high school players. Corey Chess is from New Orleans. He was the top-ranked player in Louisiana before finishing up his high school career at Link Academy. And then you have Mike Williams, who's an underrated player. He's now a top 100 player on multiple services. So those are the two high school players they have coming in. But I'll say this, I do feel like they're going to tap into that transfer portal to round things out. And as you know, going through this roster reconstruction every year when Will was here, sometimes you hear, oh, well, we think it'll be only 1 to 2 guys we'll try to bring in or what have you, and it ends up being 3 or 4, and I could see that being the case. I think we're going to see a little bit of turnover here because this first year in Baton Rouge, hasn't gone the way they thought, and there needs to be some players that maybe head out and find a different home to finish out college. So I think some honest conversations will be had, and that number that they can bring in the transfer portal this spring will grow.
Do you ever think the Bash could be revived?
Absolutely. I think with the right marketing, the right branding on it, I think it can be. And it just depends on if you want to lean into it during the early signing period and say, we're going to celebrate this group regardless of, let's say LSU had been a finalist for Nicholas Harbor and was going to land him. You wouldn't be able to celebrate that one in December if you did it. You would just announce it. So you're missing out on maybe a splash guy that could really set the Bash off, or somebody that's going to announce, but you still have announcements in December during the early signing period. LSU flipped Kamori and Pimpton. They were in it for some other guys as well that announced on that day. So you could do the Bash. I think the branding of it is probably what needs to, you got to get a little bit of feedback probably from some people in terms of what it looks like, but you can absolutely do it. And if you do it right, like you said, a little bit of boozing involved, some good food, get the coaching staff there. And that would be something that I think a lot of people would be interested in. It's just a matter of, when do you do it? Do you do it right at signing day? Do you do it right during the early signing period? I think there's an avenue for it as people get out and back, want to do some more, events as things, get back into the swing of things. This is one of those events that I'd love to see brought back, or a caravan version where you get it, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Houston, Dallas is becoming a huge base for LSU recruiting. So maybe even somewhere else in the region. I think it'd be a great idea, and you try to just do it first class and make it a really fun, high energy environment.
Billy Embody from On3. Read his work at on3.com and follow him on Twitter at Billy Embody. We'll be checking in soon. Thank you again for your time today.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Billy Embody checking in. Check him out on On3. Signing day going to be very melodramatic. Going to be very
kind of boring.
Very boring.
Like at this point, it's
very boring. I don't know anybody. I mean, I guess the Harbor kid at one point was flirting with LSU, not LSU in the finalists. I guess I'm just kind of intrigued to see where he goes.
I think he's going to Oregon.
Really?
Yeah, that's the latest.
Because he's a track guy too.
Yeah,
like stellar track guy.
Yeah, so I mean, Oregon sounds perfect for him.
All right, so Jacques going to be here in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk to Jacques about some upcoming things like baseball season getting going for LSU. We'll talk to him about the LSU basketball game tonight at Missouri as the Tigers are on the road in a very tough place to play at Missouri. We will talk to Jacques coming up about that. LSU women's basketball the other night. What was Jacques' experience from that incredible atmosphere with over 15,000 on hand to watch LSU take care of Tennessee? Now they'll have to turn around and do it to Georgia coming up tomorrow night. We will talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, get back to this Sean Payton news where Payton is now in Denver. And for the Saints, they were able to recoup that number 1 pick that they shipped off to Philadelphia. But they get it in the form of the 29th overall selection. So late in the first round, they do pick up a second-round pick next season from the Denver Broncos. Of course, the Broncos in return get Sean Payton and the rights to the head coach. The Saints did shovel over a third-round pick next year, which I don't think that was too smart. I think that was kind of dumb. I just don't get that part. Like, whoa. They want the coach. They want the coach. You're the one that needs the draft picks. You're the one that needs to build the future. They don't give them up. But, like I said, I think first for this year was a must. I would have loved to have seen a number 1 next season, but you get a number 2, so you make the best out of that. And that's ultimately the value of Sean Payton. We've seen these coaches' trades before, right? I mean, John Gruden, obviously, I think is the most famous one. A Super Bowl came out of that one for Tampa. Bruce Arians was traded to Tampa Bay from Arizona. Another Super Bowl that came via that trade. It's also happened with guys like Bill Belichick has been caught up in trades between the Jets and the Patriots. Mike Holmgren between the Packers and the Seahawks. I mean, they've had some coaches and some history with these types of trades in the NFL. Some of them have worked out, like we mentioned, I think Gruden being the most notable when he was shipped from Oakland to Tampa Bay and turned around in his first season and was the head coach for Tampa versus Oakland in the Super Bowl, where the Buccaneers and that ferocious defense kind of ran to a Super Bowl title. But Payton is now the Denver Broncos coach, and he's going to be trying to get Russell Wilson's career back on track. I think it's a great fit for Denver. I think that Payton is going to immediately make that offense into something that is very respectful and something that you're going to have to defend against and bring Russell Wilson back to life. I don't know if he'll bring him back to his peak form where he was in Seattle, but I think that he'll definitely make him a quarterback that you will, we won't be making fun of Russell Wilson every week like we were, I think, under the direction of Sean Payton. All right, so the Carpool Queen is here. We will talk to Jacques here in a couple of minutes. Come back with us, hour 2 of the Jordy Culotta Show, every day brought to you by Katie's Restaurant, our friends down in New Orleans, Katie's Restaurant on Iberville Street. If you're looking to get a taste and a feel for New Orleans, check out Katie's Restaurant. Scott Craig, our friend down there, has done a tremendous job of creating a taste and a feel for the city. It's been around since 1984. The menu has everything that you're looking for on it. If you're looking for fresh seafood po' boys, if you're looking for a great lunch spot, if you're looking for St. Louis-style pizza, whatever you may be looking for, they've got it for you down at Katie's on Iberville Street. Jacques is here. We'll bring him into the studio next. Hour 2 coming at you. Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.